From the late 1960s to the mid-1970s, Three Dog Night was one of the more successful chart-topping American groups, with 21 Billboard Top 40 hits, 11 of which reached the top 10, and 3 hitting number 1. Three Dog Night was the late 1967 brainchild of 3 LA-based lead singers, Danny Hutton, Corey Wells, and Chuck Negron. The plan was to combine the talents of these 3 into a cohesive trio of singers. Completing the band were musicians Joe Shermy, Floyd Sneed, Michael Alsop, and Jimmy Greenspoon. The group was signed to Dunhill Records in 1968 and set about recording their first album. Three Dog Night's Inland Empire debut took place on August 21, 1968. It occurred at the Inland Pop Festival staged at the Swing Auditorium in San Bernardino. Other groups appearing were Steppenwolf, The Grassroots, Chicago Transit Authority, Waller, and IE group Sunny Love and the Soul Congregation. Both Three Dog Night and Chicago had yet to release their first albums. Note that in the Sun article, Three Dog Night was misidentified as Three Dark Nights. Three Dog Night's first studio album was released in October 1968. It featured songs either originally performed by or composed by Harry Nilsson, Steve Winwood and Jim Capaldi of Traffic, Lennon and McCartney, Robbie Robertson of the band, Johnny Guitar Watson, Randy Newman, Tim Hardin, Neil Young, and Otis Redding. They would continue to use material written by outside composers. The band's first national hit was Try a Little Tenderness, that reached number 29, and their first top 10 hit was One, which peaked at number 5. Three Dog Night's second appearance at the Swing Auditorium was on April 26, 1969. They were second billed to San Francisco group Jefferson Airplane. Also playing that night were It's a Beautiful Day and Lee Michaels. It's a Beautiful Day was another San Francisco-based group that would release its first album in June 1969. They were noteworthy for being one of the early rock bands to feature a violin as a lead instrument. Los Angeles-born Lee Michaels was a singer, keyboardist, and guitarist. He was to release his breakthrough third album in November 1969. In addition to opening for Jefferson Airplane at the Swing Auditorium, he also opened for Janis Joplin and Creedence Clearwater Revival before becoming a headline attraction himself in the IE. But it was not all major concert venues for Three Dog Night. Their next IE show on May 15, 1969, was to be at the University of California, Riverside. A week before the concert, a San Bernardino Sun newspaper article reported that Three Dog Night were playing a spring celebration dance at the UCR Campus Commons cafeteria from 8 p.m. to midnight. Admission was $2 for students and $3 for the public. 4 days before the concert, the May 13, 1969 UCR Highlander student newspaper announced that the Three Dog Night dance would follow an afternoon pie-eating contest, a tug-of-war, and a mud fight. Three Dog Night's second studio album, Suitable for Framing, was released in June 1969. It featured 3 top 15 hits: the number 10 Eli's Coming, number 4 Easy to Be Hard, and number 15 Celebrate. September 1969 was a milestone for Three Dog Night. It was their third appearance at the Swing Auditorium, first time as a headliner. Also on the bill were the bands Pacific Gas and Electric and Fields. Second billed Pacific Gas and Electric was an LA blues rock band whose single Are You Ready reached number 14 on the national charts when released in May 1970. Opening band Fields was an American-powered trio that released their only album in 1969 during their short-lived career. On the day of the concert, this ad appeared in the local newspaper. Tickets for the Swing Auditorium show were $3.50 in advance and $4 at the door. It was a well-attended concert, drawing over 4,000 fans. There was an account of the show in the September 30th San Bernardino Sun B section second front page. Sun-Telegram staff writer Tom Green wrote, 2,000 people are out of their seats and pressed toward the stage. They stretch their arms high above themselves and snap their fingers to the electric sound. Girls climb onto the shoulders of boys for a better view, never missing a beat. The tempo increases. The singing bounces off the walls. Suddenly, the scene is frightening. Reporter Green continued, hundreds of people are crushed against the front of the stage. One girl, then two girls, then three, hoist themselves onto the stage and sit down in front of the performers. More follow. Police, the group's managers, move on them quickly, trying to force them back down. But all the action wasn't only happening inside the Swing Auditorium. Outside, a concertgoer found himself short of funds for a pair of tickets. His solution? Steal a car from the parking lot and rob a service station across the street. As the article reported, there he produced a German Luger and demanded $15, the price of 2 tickets with Coke money to spare, from attendant Gary L. Clover. Clover went over to the full cash box and took out only $15, police said. The bandit explained to Clover that he needed the money to get into the concert starring the Three Dog Night. The thief was never apprehended, and apparently he and his date enjoyed the concert and Cokes. Three Dog Night's 4th studio album, It Ain't Easy, was released in March 1970. It featured the number 15 hit Out in the Country and the group's first number 1 song, Mama Told Me Not to Come. In the San Bernardino Sun newspaper, it was announced that Three Dog Night was returning for the 4th time to the Swing Auditorium on Friday, May 8, 1970. In the article, it was revealed that the opening bands were Krabby Appleton, Ball and Jack, and Joe Mama. Second billed Krabby Appleton had just released its first and only top 40 single, Go Back, that peaked at number 38 on the national charts. The one-hit wonders named themselves after the arch-villain of the cartoon series, Tom Terrific. Third billed Ball and Jack was a Seattle band that released their first album in 1970. In June of that year, they returned to the Swing Auditorium to open for Jimi Hendrix. The fourth billed Joe Mama will be discussed later in this episode. A mid-May 1970 Sun article reported that an April 24th Jethro Tull Swing Auditorium concert drew a crowd of nearly 5,000. But Three Dog Night outdrew the English band when their May 8th swing show attracted 5,645 fans. Three Dog Night's 5th studio album, Naturally, was released in November 1970. It featured 3 top 20 hits: the number 19 one-man band, number 7 Liar, and the group's second career number 1 song, Joy to the World. In February 1971, Three Dog Night returned to the Swing Auditorium for the 5th time. The opening bands were Joe Mama and Bush. Second billed Joe Mama was an LA blues rock band best known for backing artists such as Carole King and James Taylor in the studio and on tour. In 1970 and 1971, they released albums of their own material. Opening the evening was Canadian band Bush. This group is not to be confused with the mid-60s Inland Empire band The Bush or the 90s UK group Bush. Members later played with Lou Reed, Alice Cooper, the James Gang, and the Guess Who. The day after the concert, an article reported an attendance of 5,000 animated fans. There was also a police crackdown on the use and sale of marijuana. 14 individuals were arrested. Police reports of vehicle vandalism and burglaries in the Swing Auditorium parking lot, located across the street, were made. Three Dog Night's sixth studio album, Golden Biscuits, was released in February 1971. It was a greatest hits collection containing 8 top 40 hits and 4 album cuts. Three Dog Night's seventh studio album, Harmony, was released in September 1971. It featured 3 top 15 hits, the number 5 hit Never Been to Spain, number 4, An Old-Fashioned Love Song, and number 12, The Family of Man. On October 20, 2015, Corey Wells became the first of the original Three Dog Night vocalists to pass away. He was 74 years old. On February 2, 2026, Chuck Negron became the second of the original Three Dog Night vocalists to pass away. He was 83 years old. In a February 12, 2026 newspaper article, Inland Empire journalist David Allen remembered Chuck Negron by revisiting Three Dog Night's September 1969 Swing Auditorium appearance. He reported on a number of incidents that occurred that night. That September 1969 show was not only advertised in the Inland Empire, there was also an ad published in underground newspaper, the LA Free Press. However, being a beacon of the counterculture, their ad was a bit more risque than the one printed in the San Bernardino Sun. In addition to 7 studio albums between 1968 and 1971, Three Dog Night also released a live album from their appearance at the Forum Arena in Inglewood, California. It was recorded on September 12, 1969. 2 weeks and a day before the group's concert later that month at the Swing Auditorium in San Bernardino. In a post-concert review, it was reported that photographs of the band were taken at the Swing Auditorium for use on their next album, which turned out to be Three Dog Night was captured live at the Forum. 2 Colton High School students, Bina Rosales and her friend Sandy Becerra, attended Three Dog Night's September 1969 concert at the Swing Auditorium. Bina managed to maneuver her way to the front row and as a result could be seen on the back cover of Three Dog Night's live album in a photo taken that night, although her face was partially obscured by her left outstretched arm. Fast forward to April 2011. This article ran in community newspaper The Record Gazette. It listed the lineup for Beaumont's summer concert series at Stewart Park. It was reported that the July 4th headliner was none other than Three Dog Night. Three Dog Night's 4th of July appearance at the Stewart Park outdoor concert venue drew a large, appreciative audience. Present in the band were 4 of the original 7 members of Three Dog Night: Danny Hutton, Jimmy Greenspoon, Corey Wells, and Michael Alsop. Over 40 years after the September 1969 Swing Auditorium concert, 2 former Colton High School students were in attendance at the band's Beaumont appearance: Bina's sister Olivia and her friend Eve. IE radio station KOLA assisted in presenting the concert, and after the show, DJ Brian Casey accompanied Olivia and Eve backstage to meet Three Dog Night vocalist Danny Hutton. Olivia asked Danny to autograph her copy of the live album with her sister pictured on the back cover. Olivia and Eve then posed for a photo with Hutton. In 2026, Three Dog Night continues to tour, but with only one full-time original member, Danny Hutton. Three Dog Night's legacy is that of having consistent record chart success. Not only were their singles popular, but between 1968 and 1974, their first 12 albums achieved gold record status.